I know that you guys are kicking off this North American tour to promote your new self-titled album, which is also out now. What are, let's start from the beginning though. Who are some of your musical influences?
Um, so difficult to
Mhm.
pinpoint. I go through moments of remembering certain ones who had you know strong influence on it. But I think if I go back early on, it was like, because I came up through this. I was a young child in the '70s, so it was a lot of the stuff that was out then. A lot of the sad songs of the '70s. Um, I guess David Bowie, John Lennon, Elvis Presley. Loved Elvis. Motown music. Um, a lot of the melodrama stuff. John Denver, Air Supply, stuff like that. Early on, just songs that were they had a lot of emotion and truth in them, more so than specifically rock music. I did like rock music, like Queen. I loved early on, as far as a rock band. But then, in my younger years, like before high school, I was actually into. I'm gonna try to study this. I was actually into like Run DMC, stuff like that, and so like the modern disco of that time. Say things like Shannon, and I went roller skating a lot. So whatever they're playing in the roller skating rink, Michael Jackson, obviously Prince. So it's really vast. It goes all over the place. There's a couple kinds of music that I don't really love, that are difficult for me to listen to, but other than a couple specific ones, I like just about everything.
What are some themes you are exploring on this new self-titled album?
On this new one, it's been more about looking out, and I think genuinely, without trying to specifically guess, but just trying to connect to the universal voice, people out there in the world, and everything that has gone on. And a lot of these songs we were working on going back about a decade ago, so some of them might seem like they were like they're touching upon a pretty apocalyptic kind of existence, and it might seem connected to even the pandemic, but they were all before. Everything was before the pandemic. It was already pretty much written, so there's nothing specifically about that in there. It was more about just feeling this divide coming on. Like I said, years ago, long before the 2016 election, it was all before that. Already feeling this kind of divide, and still always singing and pushing for more understanding and equality all around. Something that's always, it's like, I think it's something that bothers you or it doesn't bother you. But if you see things that aren't right in the world when you're growing up and you want to say something about them, you always, I always seem to want to make sure that we're pretty vocal about certain things, like, any sort of hypocrisies or things out there in the world that are just like not right, double standards, and like all kinds of things. racism. We've always been pretty vocal about those things. So I think just the main difference is that with some of the earlier records, it was a lot of, I think the first record, the Sort of Lullabies, was a good combination um, of inner reflection and being connected to everyone else, which was the purpose. It was very important to me to not get caught up in sort of self-loathing, and because it's easy to do that if you start to write a song a certain way and you feel like you're gaining traction with it because you're singing about something that is true to you and real. It's kind of easy to finish the song that way if you're just kind of complaining about what's bothering you. But to turn it into poetry or something that can potentially reach people and help them more so than just any sort of self-loathing. So I think mainly for this last couple things that we put out, really tried to stay true to that original concept. And again, going back to the idea of what ours was, after some of the experiences that I had with the record company early on, it became about my own personal fight with the machine. And it was really important to get past that again and get back to the original intent of making music, which was not meant to be about, like I said, any sort of wallowing or self-loathing or too selfish of an experience. So it's tricky sometimes because you don't want to take yourself out of it entirely to where there's not a personal experience in it, but there's a line there, like trying to figure out how to make it super personal and still feel universal. And we've tried to really focus on that, just love, really. It's sounds silly in this day and age to keep saying it, but it's not.
Oh, it needs it to. We need it now more than ever.
Yeah, it's fascinating how much things are just going to always repeat until people have some experience in a space that they realize, like, wow, like, this fighting and the war and all this, that's not really the way. So we only have a short period of time on this rock with one another, and we can get caught up in certain things, but when you realize that when you're faced with reality,
Are you there? Are you there?
hello?
Yeah, I cut out there at the end. That's okay. So what's your songwriting process? Do you need to have music before you can even come up with the lyrics?
It goes both ways. Sometimes there's a piece of music that is kind of circulating and going, and then start to write to that. And other times there's an idea, a philosophical or spiritual, emotional idea that happens right away with the vocal melodies. I dream a lot too. So sometimes I dream a melody like that, and then I have to figure out the song around it. Sometimes you're just jamming in the room and a sound comes, and then you have to write a melody to that. So it all varies. There's no one way really. Sometimes it's about like a beat, some sort of like just like a groove that I'm feeling that's triggering something, and then we're filling the music after that. Makes sense.
How much of a hand do you have when it comes to the production side of your music?
Well, I do all of it at this point. I don't really want to work with another producer. So I'm at the helm and of production with it. And then, everybody as players, they with their instruments, and sometimes another instrument, everybody kind of hears parts and stuff. So our philosophy is basically anything that anybody hears, we try, and then we see what lives, what's able to exist. But as far as like with a producer, maybe for a one-off here and there, I'll do it, but I'll never really work with a producer. I think, again, there's no need for it. I in a sense have done it all the other records. I did sometimes. I did I'm a Monster going back. When we did Mercy with Rick Rubin, he didn't come to the studio one day. So I made the record. I was one that decided what went where, what I wanted to hear, all of it, put it together. So it's kind of in my hands, with everybody else becoming a producer themselves of their own part as well. So it adds up, but we kind of, we have our own process at this point that I'm not sure how an outside producer would gel with it, anymore. It'd have to be a certain kind of, it's not impossible, but not somebody that's technically called the producer anymore, and we give them that kind of runway. Everybody has been great, like, don't get me wrong, in the past. Steve Lillywhite, love him dearly, Rick, Ethan John, but they each said to me, I was just kind of looking over your shoulder and seeing what you wanted to do, and seeing if I can help and figure out how to help. And some of them, at certain points said to me, I can't help. I can't help you. You have to just go do it. And so that's what Rick said. He technically was the producer, but he said, I love you. I trust you. Go make your record. So that was cool.
Since you guys are out on tour now, you're doing sort of a compilation, or are you switching off for some venues to Distorted Lullabies with a smidge of the new self-titled, or is it just Distorted here and then maybe the self-titled here? How is the tour going for you?
Yeah, that's basically what we've been doing. Is anywhere where we do Distorted Lullabies, we finished that, and we pretty much launched right into where we are at now and where we're going. But the sets are pretty long and intense. So, because Distorted Lullabies goes by pretty quick, especially live. We realized, like, wow, okay, that was about 42 minutes or so, 45 minutes. Mm-hmm. So yeah, then we fill it in with all new songs. That's good. It's good to kind of bridge that gap.
Yes, I'm sure.
Show it side by side.
What kind of fan response have you been receiving then during these live shows to the new singles?
Spirits are really high on them, to tell you the truth. There's a lot of excitement about them almost immediately, which is great. They seem to be, kinds of things that are catching on kind of right away with people. So yeah, it's been good.
What tracks seem to stand out to them?
Well, it's a pretty heavy-handed new song set, because we just put out about 5 records in the last couple of years, and we haven't been able to really tour as a band to play those records. So we come out with two brand new songs, and they're exciting because we're starting the set with them, and they set the tone. And then we go on to something off of Boxer, which, as we felt, was a really great single, Devil. And then, you know, it's hard to say. Every song has its own moment, so they all feel like once they're finished, like, wow, that was a moment. So it's hard to say one specific song or a couple songs, because it seems like they're really working, and they're all been effective in the spot that they're in. But, you know, From Where You Are is one that jumps out. You Are the Answer. It's another one. Yeah, it's difficult to say. Gold, Echo.
Well, then, do you have any personal favorites that you've been enjoying performing off of the new album?
Yeah, I really love Gold, and You Are the Answer. I really like to play those live. The band really comes to life on You Are the Answer. That's the point in the show where I think, if it hasn't been abundantly clear already, which I think it is, but if it hasn't, then it's pretty clear by You Are the Answer that that the band is on fire, and, you know, they've clearly established their you know, musicianship, artistry by the end of You Are the Answer. And that's why I enjoy that, because it's that moment, I think, with the audience where they finally surrender and receive, and there's like a trust thing that happens at that point where they settle in and they say, okay. And so I like to build up to that moment, because that's a moment even for me to witness, because of my experience with all of it, and through the years and how many different people that I've played with, that this now has been the longest consistent running band that we've had. So I know for me, it feels like the beginning. And even though people have seen us for years, and to me, it's all been about, like, they've bought into me and kind of followed me, but I feel like they've watched me now develop to the point of, in my opinion, really finding it and locking it down with the right consistent band, and the combination of that and songs that do something different than a lot of the songs that we've had in the past too. So for me, it's nice we had to work towards that moment, because we play a lot of new songs. So it's really, we're kind of working towards it. And there's something that happens right there where it's transformative. And I like to watch that happen.
Are there some places that you are most excited to be performing at on this tour?
You know, to tell you the truth, again, because it's when we were at the end of it, back in around 2012, when I felt like we should just kind of pack it in, I felt like we had lost the plot. There was no meaning left in it, and I don't think that anybody that was playing with me at that time had any genuine idea as to why I wrote any of the songs in the first place, or why I started to do it. When it gets to the point where people are just jumping on just to say, okay, well, I want to go on tour, I'll do it. It doesn't make anybody a bad person or not a great artist, but there's a difference between somebody taking a job or somebody really being aligned with, you know, with the whole idea of why we do it, and understanding why we do it. This isn't a band that, I mean, we drink and we we like ladies, you know, except for April. She's, you know, she likes the boys, but we're not out chasing. We don't have a band because we want to get tanked and like play Arnett to go chase, you know,
yes,
chase
tail.
chase the action, even though we love to see it. So when, you know, through the years, yeah, you know, it's just, you hear what I'm saying? When you have anybody that's like, okay, well, that sounds like a great time. I'll jump on tour, your tour bus for a year and, you know, be in a band and do all these opening slots and just like, you know, chase girls. It's cool, but that's not why we do it. And I think in 2012, we lost the plot. And so we needed to really find it again. And so my point is, now that we're doing it again for the right reasons, I want to play everywhere. I'm excited about playing everywhere and anywhere. We have a great team with us on the road, and we have the show together to where no matter where we go, the stage looks great. The sound is, we've, you know, figured out stuff for the sound with monitoring that we struggled with for years. So that being said, it's like every spot is exciting again.
What would you like to say then to everyone who are fans and supporters of the incredible music that you make?
Well, first, we want to say thank you for supporting it, and let you know that it's really powerful and meaningful to that it does. We work really hard at it. We spend a lot of time and effort. So that's the one thing. What I'd really like to be what I'd really like to try to get through to is that playing, this is the last way that we have new music any longer. Everything else has been taken away with sales and streaming, and the market just being flooded as far as songs being licensed to television and movies and all that. It's so beyond flooded, and the way that it is with the deals that anybody's out there kind of selling their music, they've driven the market so far down that it's really extremely difficult to maintain being in a band. And we're coming out on the road to bring it to you. So I would like to inspire and suggest to not take that for granted, because you really don't know how much longer, you know, bands can do what they do. So you have to, if you can, if you're able, if you're not sick or, you know, confined to your home, you have to get up off your asses and get out to a live show. It's not the same just because you've connected on social media, and that might send some sort of, you know, endorphin rush to you because you feel connected. It's not the same, and it's not enough. And you got to get out there and support live shows and see it, because it's currently the last bit of what we have to keep doing it. So please, it's just like, don't take it for granted. That's all I can say.